Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we get straight to the insights you need. Today we're looking at something pretty remarkable, a vision of rural transformation actually happening right now. Just imagine a place where you hear kids laughing in new care centers, where women aren't just participants, they're like actively leading community change. And farmers, who maybe struggled before, are now using cutting-edge digital tools, boosting their harvests. It sounds maybe like a dream, but it's the reality unfolding in Kyrgyzstan. So our mission today is a deep dive into this integrated rural development project, the IRDP, in southern Kyrgyzstan. We really want to unpack how this truly holistic approach, going way beyond just roads and buildings, how it can redefine what's possible for whole communities. We'll be digging into the sources you share, project reports, outcome summaries, you name it, to understand all the different layers of this transformation.
Yeah, and to really set the scene, you have to grasp the scale here. This is a major project led by KOICA, the Korea International Cooperation Agency, working very closely with the international NGO Good Neighbors. And they're targeting, get this, 85,000 people across 30 villages in the Arshat and Bakan regions. That's significant. From 2021 to 2025, KOIC's putting in over 10 billion Korean won. But honestly, the money isn't the most interesting part. It's the philosophy, this integrated approach. It means they're aiming to transform, well, all aspects of life: education, income, gender roles, local government, not just fixing one problem here or there.
Okay, let's unpack that, the integration piece.
Yeah.
Because that's what really jumped out at me from the sources, how they managed to connect all these different sectors. It's not just, build a well here, a school there. It's about the whole village system. How do they actually achieve that interconnectedness? Because let's be honest, a lot of projects struggle with that, staying in their silos.
That's exactly the point. So many development projects, they tend to treat symptoms, right? Not the underlying system. This one, though, it's built on this idea that things like women's rights, infrastructure, job training, good governance, they're all fundamentally linked. You can't really make lasting change in one spot without affecting the others. Let me give you a concrete example from the reports. Say villagers needed clean drinking water. The project didn't just install pipes and walk away. They knew that wouldn't last without local ownership. So they also brought in hygiene education and, crucially, set up monitoring groups run by local women leaders. So residents weren't just users, they were managers, maintainers. That shows the shift, right? From just providing infrastructure to, well, realizing rights, building capacity.
That's a huge difference. Yeah, empowering people to manage things themselves. And that thinking seems to run through everything. Like we saw other examples, right? Kitchen garden training. It wasn't just about growing vegetables.
High-value vegetables, specifically.
Right. High-value ones. And then they expanded it, helping them with joint storage and selling the produce together to get better prices. And what also struck me was how customized it all was. You mentioned the sources talked about surveys, one-on-one action plans.
Yeah, tailored to each village. Their specific crops, their markets, their infrastructure needs.
That level of detail, that must have been absolutely critical for making sure it actually works for them.
Oh, absolutely. Customization is key. You can't just parachute in a standard model. It never quite fits. And building on that, connecting the dots, one really powerful hub of change that popped up was these multi-purpose women centers. So maybe initially a village might say, we need childcare. Fair enough. But the project helped transform these places into something much more dynamic. Yes, kindergartens, but also places for women to start small businesses, hold community meetings. They became these real hubs for childcare, yes, but also women's empowerment, income generation, all under one roof. There was this great quote from a resident. What was it? At first, we needed a space for childcare.
But now the women of the village are planning for their future at the center. Yeah, I remember that one. It says so much.
Exactly. It shows how meeting one need can kind of snowball into something much bigger, much more transformational.
It really does capture that shift from just needing something basic to actively planning for the future. That suggests a real change in outlook, in opportunity.
So how did they help the women turn that empowerment into actual, economic results? What were the practical steps for generating income?
Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was quite strategic and differentiated. KOICA organized about 1,200 farming households into groups based on the crops they grew, so they could specialize, share techniques, get better yields together. And crucially, they set up separate storage and distribution facilities for these groups. That tackled a huge problem for small farmers getting their produce to market in good condition. Suddenly, they were way more competitive.
So addressing the whole chain, not just the growing part. Precisely. And alongside that, they ran a revolving microloan fund. About 3,790 households got involved. This wasn't just handing out cash. It was about building financial skills, helping families build a solid foundation for, standing on their own feet economically.
So social development and economic opportunity really going hand in hand.
Exactly. They feed each other.
Okay, now this next bit is where, for me, it gets really interesting and maybe where a lot of projects stumble. The sources talk about a governance experiment led by the residents. Getting real local leadership, genuine participation, not just solutions dropped from above. That's often the hardest part, right? How did they actually make that happen? How did they build that local ownership that lasts?
It's a critical question, isn't it? Sustainability. The whole operational system was designed around resident participation, but also, importantly, government cooperation. Right from the start, Koika helped organize these village development committees in every single village. And these weren't just talk shops. They were given real power to create and implement their own development plans.
Their own plans, not Koika's plans.
Their own plans. They became the ones choosing projects, managing maintenance, even finding other funding sources. That builds real ownership, And we're seeing the results. Around 300 village leaders getting trained each year, 600 grads so far, plus 30 women farmer groups formed, leading income projects, running village meetings.
Oh.
It's proper grassroots empowerment, building capacity from within.
That's fantastic, really giving people the reins. But, for things to stick long term, local efforts usually need backup from higher up, right? Aligning with national strategy. How did they bridge that gap? Connect the village committees with the Kyrgyz government.
Yeah, that link is vital for scaling up and making sure changes last. Koika was smart about this. They actually invited 20 Kyrgyz government officials over to Korea for intensive training, field visits. It wasn't just knowledge transfer. It was about building relationships, co-designing the approach. So together, they set up coordination committees, implementation committees, involving the local Ministry of Agriculture.
Ah, okay. So embedding it within the existing structures.
Exactly. Ensuring policy alignment, making sure everyone's pulling in the same direction. And speaking of achievements that came out of that collaboration, one of the really big ones was this digital rural advisory platform. They saw that the old ways of getting farming information out to villages, well, they weren't great. Farmers were often left guessing.
Right, like weather forecasts, new techniques.
Exactly. So the project worked with the Ministry of Agriculture and some local IT companies to build this platform. Now farmers can get customized info right on their phones, climate data, new farming tech, pest warnings.
That's huge.
It is. And the vision is even bigger. It's designed to be expanded, potentially serving the entire agricultural administration of Kyrgyzstan someday. Think about that. Modernizing the whole sector with real-time data.
That digital platform sounds like a total game changer for individual farmers, really bringing them into the modern age. And building on that economic theme, there was another clever strategy the sources called fruit clusters. So the areas were good for growing things like apples, apricots, cherries, valuable stuff. But the report said a major block was the lack of decent processing, storage, and ways to get the fruit to market. It was hurting the value. What was the fix there?
Yeah, this is where Koika's cluster strategy really came into play. It's about creating a whole value chain, linking production, processing, distribution, sales, making it one smooth flow. Before, you might have great fruit, but if you can't store it or ship it properly,
it spoils, or you sell it cheap locally.
Exactly. So the solution had several parts. Better farming tech training, obviously, to improve quality and yields, smart irrigation systems for reliability, and then the really crucial bit, village-level cold storage and logistics facilities.
So they could store it properly, move it efficiently.
Right. Keep it fresh longer, reach better markets. And they even brought in the Korea Rural Economic Institute. They provided economic analysis, policy advice, really focusing on designing a market foundation that would last.
So sustainable even after the project itself phases out.
That was the goal. Building a system that adds value at every step and can keep running on its own.
Okay, so we've talked integrated strategies, empowerment, digital tools, these fruit clusters. Let's get down to brass tacks. What's been the real tangible impact on the ground? What do the results actually show? Is this holistic approach really working?
Well, the numbers coming out of the reports are pretty compelling, and they're already showing some significant gains. The productivity for key crops, apples, raspberries, cherries, apricots, potatoes, it's up by an average of 15.6%.
15%. That's substantial for farming families.
It really is. Plus, that fruit cluster master plan got set up with the local government that's key for future growth. And a lot of capacity building happened around rural development policies, meaning local institutions are just better equipped now. The project has this ambitious overall goal, too, to cut the poverty rate in these areas by about 5% down to around 77.9% by the time it finishes.
So clear economic shift starting to happen.
Definitely. Targeted work leading to measurable change.
Those numbers are strong. But beyond the stats, there was this piece of recognition that really struck me. It kind of speaks volumes about the national impact. The sources mention that 2 Éileach Modis, those are the rural municipalities, right?
Basically, local government unit.
Right. 2 of them, Zouch and Shonalai, both part of this project, won 1st and 3rd place in the 2024 Kyrgyzstan Best Éileach Motu contest. This isn't some minor award, is it? It's a national government thing, judging autonomous development and administration capacity.
No, it's a big deal. Zouch came in 1st place. Out of 235 Éileach Modis across the whole country, they got top marks. And Shonalai's 3rd place is maybe even more impressive because it's in one of the really isolated, traditionally underdeveloped parts of Kyrgyzstan.
Wow.
Getting that kind of national praise, it's not just symbolic. It really highlights how deep the impact of this integrated project goes. It's not just changing lives, it's strengthening local governance, building sustainable development capacity in a way that's getting noticed at the highest levels. It validates the whole approach.
This deep dive really has shown the power of thinking holistically, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What began maybe with just a need for kindergartens, it grew into this amazing story of women finding their voice, farmers using tech to thrive, whole communities really taking control of their own futures. It just proves that real, lasting change isn't about finding silver bullets or quick fixes. It's about carefully, thoughtfully connecting all the dots, every aspect of life in a community.
Absolutely. And that kind of leaves us with a question, maybe for you, the listener, to mull over. This project clearly shows that when you truly empower local people, when you build strong local governance, and when you deliberately weave together the social, the economic, the technological, the potential for deep, systemic, sustainable change is just immense. So the question is, what specific lessons can we take away from Kyrgyzstan's governance experiment for other places facing similar challenges? And maybe closer to home, how can we start applying this integrated mindset thinking beyond single issues to tackle the complex problems in our own communities? How do we connect those dots?